Okay, so it's actually a really super lesson or easy lesson today. I have only one actual lesson for 6.3, but I have 2 days worth of homework. So tomorrow won't necessarily be a new lesson. It'll just be kind of extra practice on what we've been doing. And then we're also going to do, like I was telling you, guys, like I was telling you a minute ago, we're also going to do another 5-minute quiz, but it's going to be about 8 minutes. All right, so what this first part is going through, we've actually already talked about, but it's just kind of reiterating what is going on. So it is basically telling you if you have an ordered pair, this is how you find your answer, but you guys already know this, right? If you have an ordered pair, that ordered pair is what, comma, what? Cosine, comma, sine. And that's what that chart right there is telling you. So if you look at it, see how it says sine of t equals y? Well, that makes sense based on what you know. It says cosine of t equals x. Hopefully that makes sense based on what you know. Tangent is y divided by x. Now, you hadn't had a lesson yet, but I've told you guys that several times, right? So hopefully you remember all of that. Cosecant, remember, is the reciprocal of reciprocal of sine. So notice that it does have the 1 over y. Secant has 1 over x. And then cotangent is just x over y instead of y over x. Okay, so looking at that ordered pair, what is sine? What's sine of theta? Which means that cosecant is perfect. What is cosine? Negative 3 over 5. So secant is perfect. And then tangent. So remember we've done this. Okay, I said tangent is sine over cosine. If you look at your sine and your cosine, see how they both have a 5 in the denominator? That 5 is going to just cancel, which leaves us with positive 4 over 3 because they're both negative. And doesn't that make sense? Because what quadrant are we in with that ordered pair? Yeah, no, give me a number. We're in quadrant 3. And guys, tangent is positive in quadrant 3, and the other 2 are negative. So that one is, of course, 3/4. The only other thing in this lesson, I told you this lesson was pretty easy compared to what you guys had been doing. The only other thing in this lesson is talking about negative radians or negative degrees. Okay, what I want you to look at the box that is kind of in orange there. I want you to look at that box. What it's basically saying is if you have sine of a negative angle, go ahead. If you have sine of a negative angle, then basically you find what that value is and then make it negative. If you have cosine of a negative angle, notice that it turned it positive. And then if you have tangent of a negative angle, again, you find that value and make it negative. And then all the cofunctions, I've told you guys that before, cofunctions always agree with the same sign as its cofunction. Okay, so here's what I want to do first in this section. So if you look at A, it says sine negative 45. So that's going to turn into negative sine of 45 degrees. What did I say about cosine? It turns positive. So it seems weird because in your head you're like, all right, it's negative, so something has to be negative. But it's going to seem weird for the first few times that you do it. But yeah, that negative just goes away. I'll explain why these work here in just a sec. Tangents. Negative tangent 60. And cosecant. Negative cosecant 30. Perfect. Secant. Just secant 60. So it's cosines, cofunction. So it follows the same sign. Cotangent.
That part of the interruption
I'm recording it. I'm recording it.
We will still transition to our period 7 flex here at 10:45, and then we will start our state walk precisely at 10:50.
Okay, so I want to explain the reason, though. Why is it that cosine is positive when it's a negative angle versus why the others are negative? The reason for that, when you have a negative angle, we've talked about this the last couple of days. What does that mean when you're doing something on the unit circle? It means you go in the other direction, right? So if we were originally in quadrant 1, if we have a negative angle, that puts us in quadrant 4. Which one is positive in quadrant 4? The cosine. So do you guys see why then cosine stays positive, or it turns positive? The other two stay negative. Really, the only other thing in this lesson is just figuring out what those answers are. What is sine of 45? Hold on. I'll just do it here. Oh, nope, it's coming back. All right, so letter A, negative rad 2 over 2. Perfect. Cosine of 30 degrees. Do you guys remember that? But it's going to be positive, right? Rad 3 over 2. Okay, tangent 60, and then we just make it negative. So think about it. 60 degrees. What is opposite of 60 degrees? The rad 3, right? Opposite of 60 degrees is rad 3. So tangent is opposite over adjacent. What is adjacent to 60 degrees? 1. So tangent would be negative rad 3. All right, cosecant of 30. So remember, probably the easiest way to do this is figure out what sine of 30 is, and then just take the reciprocal. Sine of 30 is 1/2, reciprocal of that, and then make that negative. Secant of 60 degrees. So let's do the same thing. Cosine at 60 degrees is 1/2, but this one is asking for secant, so take the reciprocal, positive 2. Cotangent 45, tangent and cotangent at 45 degrees is always 1. In this case, it's going to be negative. All right, tomorrow we will do another 5-minute quiz, and then you're just going to do some practice for the rest of the period. Homework quiz on Monday.
So you said we don't have another lesson?
It's not another lesson, but you have another worksheet. Oh, thank you. Yeah, guys, if you borrowed one of my pens, can you bring it up here?